Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. So, what I'm going to do today, I will talk about another topic that's the principle of design thinking. So principle of design thinking, it is a part of human-centric design. Now, you must be wondering, right? I've spoken about human-centric design. I've spoken about different aspects of it. Why do I want to talk about it again, right? Well, the reason why I wanted to talk about it, the principle of design thinking, right? It's something which most of the companies use, like for instance, Apple, IBM, Google, when they want to design the product. And at the same time, most of the companies really don't follow this principle as well. So let me give you a very simple example. In a conventional model, what normally happens? You have a business problem and you brainstorm the problem and then you work on the solution, right? It's kind of a linear approach. But that approach may or may not work for every scenario, right? So, for instance, if you're building a solution, let's say for uh, for a heart surgeon, right? You wanted to build a machine for a heart surgeon. Now, obviously, you wanted to make sure that the surgeon is comfortable using the technology you're going to build, right? You can't really assume that, okay, this is a business problem. What we have, the business problem is surgeon needs a new equipment which can monitor the heartbeat or whatever, right? Just for the sake of example, I don't know much about heart surgery, but let's say you need a device to monitor the heartbeat, and surgeons want a better version of it. Let's take it for that, for the sake of example. Now, when we talk about, when you define better, right? Now, I get it, better is a subjective term, but when you're talking about the better version of designing um, a hard machine, right? Then you need to, you can't really just go to the drawing board and say, okay, the hospital needs a better version of the heart, measuring device which measures the heartbeats and all of the factors, right? And it can also give you an indication whether the person is prone to heart attack in the future. So we need all this functionality. Let's go to the drawing board. Let's start drawing it. Okay, we will see. Okay, this is the machines we're going to build it, and this is how we're going to prototype it and ship it to hospital. Now, that kind of approach might work for certain models or certain business case, but in this case, all we did we gathered a requirement and brainstormed it and started building a solution. Now, where is the surgeon, right? We are building this for a surgeon, right? Have you consulted the surgeon? Have you given have you consulted what kind of machine he's after, and is he tech savvy or is he not tech savvy? Because the thing is, all right, you'll assume, oh, he's a doctor or he's a medical surgeon, he'll know a lot of machines. It's not really the case, though, right? I mean, I've seen doctors that really struggle with computers because that's not really the area of expertise. So you can't really assume that the a surgeon or a doctor will jump online and figure out the codes, that codes, and connect the machine, this and that, and get it working. It's not always the case. So you need to involve surgeon into consideration. So the whole point of the principle of design thinking is to keep user as the primary focus, right? To give all attention to the user, to bring all kind of necessary practices in place to make sure the user is the point of the user is the main person in this story, not the machine you're trying to build, right? Because what normally business do, okay, machine is the main point of story because that's exactly what we are after, right? We're building a machine. That's not really true, right? User who's using it is the main guy in the story, not the machine. So you always need to make sure that you involve the surgeon in this case. That's where the design thinking principle comes in the picture. It's not about whether this design is feasible or whether the design is viable. The question you should be asking whether this design is desirable, right? If it is not desirable, then there's no question about feasibility or viability, because it's break the basic principle, right? Because this product is not needed. So when this product is not needed, it doesn't matter if it's feasible or it's viable. Nobody gonna use it. So what's the point, right? So that's where the principle of design thinking comes in the picture. To start with the desirability. Who are we building this for? We're building this for surgeons, right? So have you consulted surgeons? What kind of product they have in mind? Uh, you know, whether they want two switches on the board or three switches. I'm just making this up, right? Because I'm not an electrical engineer, so I don't know anything about it. Um, so I'm just making this up, right? So it might sound silly, I have no idea how the heart machine looks like, but just say it's a rectangular shaped box with two three switches. They can tweak, tweak the uh, frequency. Maybe heart has some kind of pulsation. So let's say the heart frequency, the ECG kind of machine. Like I said, I'm making this up. I have no idea about this, medical stuff. So, but just assume for the sake of the principle of design, right? We're talking about a rectangular shaped box would have two, three switches on it, right? So usually, you can go and talk to doctors, say, hey, this is what you have in mind. Two, three switch where you can press this, press that, you'll get this all functionality, or you wanted something else, right? If the surgeon say, oh, two, three switches is too complicated for us, we don't understand very well, we want it very simple. So you can start with the prototype, right? Iterate the process and, involve the main actors of the story, right? In building stuff. So that's how the principle of design thinking. And make sure your product is desirable, right? If your product is not wanted, then nobody's gonna use it. Then you invest the millions of dollars. It's pointless, right? Most of the people, assume what customer wants. That's a very bad way to look at this stuff, right? That's the reason why I wanted to talk about this principle of design thinking. So if you're building a product, right? If you're writing a software, if you're adding a customization, think from a user perspective, how they're going to use it, right? I mean, I'm guilty of it as well. Right? At times when I build solutions, right, I used to think, okay, I wanted to make a stable, uh, you know, code base. I wanted to make a stable architecture. I wanted to make sure that whatever code I add or whatever architecture I build on, whatever framework I use, it should be sustainable and it should work, say maybe 5 years down the line, right? And it should be easy to enhance. That's great. That's great from an architecture perspective. But what about from a user perspective? Are you building too complicated, geeky solution which user find it difficult to use? I'll tell you an example of one of the ERP systems I used. I'd be very honest with you, right? I, I I'm a tech guy, right? I can work with codes, I can work with complex software, but that software was so geeky, right? Even I used to struggle to understand, and at times I used to question how an average user is comfortable using that complicated, geeky version of ERP, right? I mean, if I'm an average user who had no idea about, a lot of stuff's happening in the software space, except, how to click here, click there to get my stuff done, I will not like that ERP system at all. That system will be the least desirable form of system I ever wanted to use. So that's where the principle of design thinking comes into picture, right? You're building something, you're investing thousands of dollars or millions of dollars to build a solution, but if the users or customers are not going to use it, it's just a waste of time and money of people who are involved, right? So that's why the principle of design thinking is very important. So that being said, that's all I wanted to cover in today's episode. Hope you guys have an amazing Tuesday. Adios.